Good morning, everyone. I'm Julie Livingston of Want Leverage Communications, the public relations and LinkedIn consultancy. And I'm delighted to be here again for another episode of my podcast, PR Patter. Oops, I'm just going to put on my headphones because it is noisy out there. Um, Great to see you all again and to have this opportunity to chat. Yeah, that's much better. Okay. I am delighted to welcome my guest today, Ken Jacobs. Ken is the principal of Jacobs Consulting and Executive Coaching, which helps empower PR and communications leaders and executives to become more inspiring, and effective leaders. I love that. His company also helps agencies grow business, manage for profitability, improve custom client service, and enhance team performance, communications, and leadership skills. Prior to launching his practice, Ken spent 25 years in management and leadership positions with a number of PR agencies, so he really knows his stuff, including Ogilvy and Mather PR, Marina Marr Communications, Maloney and Fox, and Lippy Taylor. Ken discusses leadership with some of the PR and communications industry's most respected leaders in taking the lead. His quarterly leadership column in PR essays, strategies, and tactics, and the similarly named video podcast on his website and YouTube channel. So check those out. He's been a regular presenter at the PRSA Counselors Academy since 2008, as well as PRSA Icon, Leadership Rally, College of Fellows, and various PRSA district conferences. We have been living in parallel universes for many years, Ken. So it's great to have you on the show. Thank you for joining me.
Very true. Thank you so much. To be perfectly honest, I've wanted to be on PR Patter for a long time. I lobbied her, I'll admit it. And here we are. See, everyone, see, it really pays off. Your dreams do come true. You get to appear on PR Patter with
Oh, that's
Julie.
very flattering. Thank you so much. You know, I have experienced leadership in a lot of different ways throughout my career. First, as a junior publicist, certainly learning the ropes from different leaders, mainly women, I have to say. And then I became a leader myself in leading and managing teams at Scholastic and at the Toy Association and other firms. And now, as a sole practitioner, I find that I need those leadership skills as well to deal with my clients because um, they are looking to me for my opinions, and I have to be strong enough to really communicate those with them. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I think we have so many different definitions of leadership. My favorite is when you use your leadership energy, and I know I'm using the word in the
Mm,
definition, so I'm in trouble with my seventh grade English teacher. But when we use our leadership energy to get the desired outcomes for the organization, for our teams, if we have teams, for our clients, for our stakeholders, and for ourselves. So, if you agree with that definition, that means it's never too early to lead. That really means we're always leading. We're always leading through energy and influence. So, I kind of misquote Mayor Ed Koch when I say, the question isn't, am I leading? Because you are. The question is, how am I leading? Right? He used to say, how am I doing? Well, how am I leading? Because everyone watching or listening to this podcast is leading. It's a matter of how effective are you?
yeah, I mean, how do you think that courage plays a role in leadership today, Ken?
It's always played a huge role. Our followers are on high alert, high antenna for fear, but they don't want fear. They want courage and bravery from their leaders. Those, baby boomers and Gen Xers might remember Wooly Willy, right? That game we used to play with a piece of cardboard and acetate. And we had, all the Gen Zers are saying, "What's that?" Ask your grandparents. But um, and Wooly Willy was bald, and you'd move a magnetic wand around, and then you'd put iron filings. You'd give him hair. Okay, I didn't do enough of that. A beard, eyebrows, a Van Dyke, whatever. And that's such a great living example because your followers are drawn to your courage like those iron filings are drawn to that magnetic wand. And it's been proven time and time again. If you think Churchill during the Battle of Britain, or FDR here at the same time, JFK during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Can we all tell I'm a history geek? But more recently, Malala in the Near East. Um,
And even Greta Thunberg, right?
oh
The
my
young
God,
environmental activist. Yeah.
that that's how people are so they so want your courage. And the thing is, courage is not a lack of fear. One of my courage heroes is Eleanor Roosevelt. I won't do my Eleanor Roosevelt impression, but I agree with her definition. Courage is not the lack of fear, it's doing what you know must be done despite having fear. That's courage. And that will, I promise you, lead to more loyal, more empowered, and more engaged
And more
followers
more
and team.
productive, I would imagine too,
Abs-
more motivated. I
yeah,
remember having, as a junior publicist, I remember having a boss who, and I was really, she knew I was just learning the ropes. I had come from being a fashion editor, actually. That was my first job. And she said to me, well, I could tell you really struggle writing. Instead of saying, which really wasn't true, but I was learning how to write as a publicist. But instead of saying, I know you're trying really hard, and let me show you the way. That would have gotten so much more out of me than, you know, the fear that she created in me, by saying it the way she did.
yeah. That's just, where is that person? I was like you. I worked during my 25 plus years in PR. I worked mostly for women. I was very fortunate to work for just amazing leaders, Jean Schoonover, Barbara Hunter, who were glass ceiling breakers. When they took over DAY in 1969, before I was there, to be clear, women didn't own agencies of that size
Right.
in those days. And then
Right.
Barbara, in her mid 60s, created Hunter. Trust me, 35, 36 now
Incredible.
years ago, women in their mid 60s did not create agencies, and it went on to become huge. And the two others I really want to cite, if I may, for their courage are Lenore Cooney, who taught me so much about leadership, and Marina Marr. What a just lived her courage, and that inspired those of us on the leadership and management team at MMC to live ours. So I was very, very fortunate. And I think of them certainly weekly. And this is now how many years
Really,
in? So
really.
I think it really shows that, we leave those leadership footprints and they inspire your followers decades later. So
That's true. I mean, how I remembered that story, right? This
yeah,
is like 30 something years ago.
yeah, and it
Um,
cuts both ways. It cuts both ways.
yes.
When you
Yes.
misstep, it might be remembered, but I think people can be generous and forgiving, but they really, when you inspire them with your courage or other leadership skills, it has such an afterlife, truly.
Yeah. It's worth
And
a
that's a
million
gift.
bucks. Yeah.
That's your leadership legacy. That's your leadership legacy.
And how good that feels, so good to be able to make that kind of impact on people and watch them grow. I mean, that's kind of, in my opinion, what leadership is all about.
Well, I always say in the PR cemetery or the PR agency cemetery, there's no tombstone that says they doubled their budget in a year. Now, you may have doubled your budget in a year, and kudos, but that's not what people are going to remember when they think about you.
Right, right. So we are in such uncertain times right now. There's been just incredible change. I actually just spoke to a PRSA contingent yesterday about using LinkedIn, leveraging LinkedIn through times of change. Um, how should people lead in a time like this, during
Yeah,
turbulent times like this?
I think there last year was uncertain. This definitely feels turbulent. I mean, so number one is lead with courage, because many people are uncertain and scared now. So I mean, it's a lot of great leadership skills, evergreen ones, but some rise to the top. So leading with courage is definitely one. Number two is leaning into leadership. And I'm not minimizing management and running the organization, running the enterprise, but you are better able to manage if you're leading effectively, if you have followers who look to leadership is a two-part choice. Your choice to go beyond being a PR person or an agency owner, and your decision to truly consciously lead people, lead human beings, with all the good and the bad and the challenges and the potential fulfillment that goes with that. But they have the choice, and we forget they have the choice to follow you or not.
Right.
They may do the work, they may tick the box. That is not enough in these times. You want to choose to lead. The third would be enhance your emotional intelligence. It is
Mm,
more important than ever. If I can mention a book, I have no
sure.
relationship with the authors, but can I show it?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Emotional Intelligence 2.0 by Bradbury and Greaves. They've come out with three, but I haven't read it yet. Read it. You read a few chapters, you take the assessment, it comes right out of your laptop printer. And the guidance it gave me, it really helped me understand in these four quadrants of emotional intelligence. Two, I was strong. One, I had a few watch outs, and one was like, oh my God, Ken, you've got it. They didn't use those words. You've really got to do better. But their
Right.
tips are practical. Their tips are practical.
Oh,
Excuse
that
me.
sounds like a great resource.
It is. I encourage everyone. I will commit. I've got to get 3.0, and shift from trainer or teacher to coach, right? That
Oh,
leader that you mentioned was, I guess, trying to train you, or not very effectively. But this idea of ask, don't tell is so effective. And, you know, while we can't go back in time, if I was coaching your leader,
right.
I would encourage them next time to say, Julie, how do you feel you're doing with your writing? Julie, tell me what you're doing well. What's coming
Exactly.
easily? Um, how would it feel to work together on any areas you might be struggling with, right? And by saying how would it feel, you would have literally felt it, and then you might have said that would feel great, or you might have said, I don't feel I'm struggling. Okay, good to know. How can you write in a way that you would be so proud of everything that you write? And that would have created an emotional, it's laser coaching, right? That would have created an emotional connection. Last two quick thoughts. We're talking about ask, don't tell, shift from telling to asking, fight the urge and ask. And then when they speak, focus on deep, active listening. And if you don't think your followers would pay plus for active listening, Google active listening, Google empathetic listening, Google listening for leaders. Listening is so much more important than speaking. And then finally, self care. We must take care of ourselves in these days for a couple of reasons. Number one, for ourselves, whether it's yoga, mindfulness, meditation, exercise, getting outside, getting whatever works for you, it's important to do it not only because you need it, but because your followers are watching you. And so, if on one hand you say to them, self care is important, but they see you working 14-hour days and not going to the gym and not doing these
Right. What
things,
kind of examples does that set?
well, Ralph Waldo Emerson ever said, what you do speaks so loudly, I cannot hear what you say. So if you
Wow.
want your people to get through tumultuous times, and you do, I think, you want them to put the energy into self-care, then you do it. It's like, what do they say on the airline? Um, put your oxygen mask on you first
Right.
before
Right.
your traveling companion. Self-care is the same thing.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. As I said, I was talking to this PRSA contingent yesterday. Many of them are out of work at the moment, unfortunately, and trying to figure out, how can they survive during such a turbulent period. And we were talking about all those self-care things that are so important, and to just keep busy, do some volunteer work, or, you know, um, take some courses, learn something new,
Yeah.
keep your skill set up, etc.
Can I
Um,
can I add a piece of counsel
yeah,
for those people who might be
please
listening or
do.
watching and have found themselves unfortunately out of work? And there are many great communications pros out of work right now. When I hear of things available, I always try to share on LinkedIn, but that's not the point. The point is, remember a couple of things. This probably wasn't caused by you. It was probably the environment. Don't question your comm skills.
Oh, that's such a
Own
good
it,
point.
embrace it. You are good at what you do. This too shall pass, and you may come out better at the other end. Maybe it's time to reassess the career. I hope you want to stay in PR and comms. It's a great career of great people. But maybe you want to do things differently. Maybe you want to switch to becoming an independent PR person, or maybe you want to work for a nonprofit. Whatever it may be, take this opportunity to reassess what your life mission is, what your purpose is, in life, of course, but also in the business world, and in the world of communications and PR.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about pivoting and using this time to consider pivoting. I mean, I know for myself, I have pivoted many times. I've been in my own business. I've worked in the corporate world. I've worked in maybe 4 or 5 different industries, even. Whereas a lot of PR people will stay in one
Mm.
specific niche. I think it's good to pivot and really broaden your skill set.
As anyone who knows me knows, I did a big pivot 206, 207. I had started in PR. I got in early because Gene and Barbara and others believed in me. I had a lot of opportunity early on. I kind of like the Wonder Kid, but that didn't last. That didn't last. And in 2006, 7, my need for a change, as well as I was 50, there was ageism in the business. And I thought, what do I want to do now? Do I want to look for a job at age 50? And some do, and that's fine. Um, or do I want to be really brave and try something completely
Yeah,
new and be an entrepreneur, which I never thought I wanted to? I love being the number two at an agency. And I chose courage, and it was scary. And I will just tell you two things. I've never looked back. I've never been happier or more fulfilled. So, and I'm still, touching the PR world
sure,
because
sure.
85, 90% of my clients are in the PR space, and I get to empower PR people. Wow, what a great second chapter that is.
That's wonderful. That's a great story.
Thank you.
Um, there are so many times when leaders have to give feedback to their team members. And what's the way to give truly constructive feedback, Ken? How would you say that the approach should
Yeah,
be?
there's so we could do a whole session on this, but a segment. But I would say number one, start with your mindset. If your mindset is, oh, this is what they're doing wrong, 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 they're going to feel that. Energy and mindset are contagious. If your mindset is, I get to help them improve this work output or improve how they're performing at client meetings or whatever it is. I'm going to help them on that career path. If you embrace that, they will feel that. And, show them you care. Show them you care about them and their careers and that you believe they can do better. because a feedback recipient's response is tied to, and their openness is tied to, do they think this leader really cares about me? And if they don't sense that, they go into shutdown. Consistently communicate respect, even if the work output you believe was inferior, not as good as they could do, or even
Right.
if the behavior in a client or team meeting was not how we do things here. Always communicate respect because you want them to stay open to your feedback. And you can respect the person even as you give them feedback that could be difficult. Um, though, it doesn't have to be. Let's not think of it as difficult feedback. I always say, and let's not even think of it as constructive critique. Let's think about it as constructive feedback. Why? Most practitioners, leaders, managers that I know, they think constructive critique, they start constructive, they go to critique, and that's where they live. What does that do to the recipient's ego or their desire to sit in the room with you? No, they want to leave. But if you
They want
call
to
it,
run.
they want to run. They have. And
Yeah.
if you think of it as constructive feedback, now the emphasis is on feedback that will help me build. What will it help you build? It will not just help you build their skills, it helps you build trust, respect, your relationship, which is everything, and it builds their desire to want to grow and improve and come back the next time for another constructive session because they know it's going to make them better. I mean, there's a lot more we could say, but I think those are some of the hallmarks.
Yeah, I mean, leaders who create that kind of positive environment are just going to get more and more and more out of their team members. More,
And
and
that's
in
what,
PR, that is so important. I mean, you want them to bring their positive energy to client interaction, to their writing, to their thought processes, right?
well, I'm delighted you mentioned energy. I'm an energy leadership coach. I hope it's okay to say.
Yeah.
And we know that the energy we bring when giving constructive feedback, which might be not just to someone to report, it might be to a client, as you experience, it might be to our leader. I don't even call it managing up, I call it leading up. And when you learn how to do that, you're benefiting the leader. You're helping to turn them into the best possible leader for you. Despite indications to the opposite, no one comes into work and says, I really want to be a horrible leader today. I want to show them disrespect. I want them to
Right.
feel bad.
Right.
It sometimes seems that, but they really don't want to. But if you can figure out how to give constructive feedback up, leading up, you're benefiting them and you're turning them into the best leader for you. And I think you have the right to do that as a team member. I think you should do that as a team member.
What would you say is the one thing that leaders kind of can botch can botch up pretty quickly? Would
Gosh, there's so many, but I think it is leaning into management more than leadership. It is not doing the work of leadership. It is not studying leadership. A lot of the skills that get people promoted in our business is because they're good at PR or social or digital comms or you name it. They're great with clients. They're great with prospects. And my gosh, I would not minimize those important agency skills. That said, that as you get promoted, that doesn't mean you really know how to lead people. So get the skills, improve your empathy, ask, don't tell, improve your emotional intelligence, join a peer group of other leaders, go to websites
love
and
that. Yeah.
blogs that share great leadership. You mentioned taking the lead. We share leadership wisdom, as we said, from leaders we admire. So one that I want to mention is Patrice Tanaka, who may be watching
Oh,
us right now.
I know
Might be
Patrice.
watching us right now. Um, but learn about leadership. Don't assume it's innate. It is for some people, but if you get don't assume you're a great leader. Study, learn, if I can say it, hire an executive coach, a leadership coach. This is what we help leaders and leaders in training do. And remember, coaching isn't just remedial. It's not just you've done something wrong. We work with a lot of high potential leaders, leaders who get promoted into leadership positions, maybe a little young or early on the experience curve, but they're given this great gift of leadership. They may not know exactly how. So
Right.
study, learn. If I can follow, can I mention
Sure.
I David Grossman? He's such a great example. Um, has an agency mostly focusing on internal, but there are so many podcasts, blogs, books about leadership. It's there for the taking. Take advantage of it, and don't go it alone. Don't go
Yeah.
it alone.
Yeah. Ken, this has been such a fun conversation and so interesting. Thank you so much for being here today. I really
Oh, thank you for
appreciate
the
it.
invitation.
And for all those who want to connect with Ken, go to jacobscom.com, or you can find him on LinkedIn, and listen to his podcast for sure. The name of the podcast again is Taking the
Taking
Lead.
the lead. It's on our website, and if you look on YouTube, Jacobs Consulting and Executive Coaching, we're on YouTube.
That's awesome. And everyone else, next time I'll see you on PR Patter. If you like what you saw today, go to my website at wantleverage.com and download Make Your C-Suite Stand Out on LinkedIn. I'll see you again.